Again, really good to be with you. Thanks for being here on today and joining in a celebration of people who have made really significant decisions to follow Jesus and then just do what Jesus said do. Like, hey, publicly acknowledge that and be baptized as a way of saying that I'm with you and you're with me, and that's absolutely enormous. And then on top of that, the symbolism of being fully united with Jesus, literally made one with him in his death, and his death to sin and all things that hold us back, but then resurrected with him to live with this power to live a new life. Power to live a completely new way, very different way, and a better way, living in his image and living in his steps. So thanks for being a part of that. If you're here today or you're joining online and you are a follower of Jesus, maybe you've been a follower of Jesus for 24 hours, maybe you've been a follower of Jesus for a few decades, but you've never grabbed a hold of the moment to be baptized, hang around. We'll do it again next hour. And you could jump in and we'll help take care of that for you and be ready. And if you're joining online, we'll be here at 11 o'clock. You just leave now. I don't have anything worth saying, so just leave and get here and we'll baptize you at 11. It'd be great. It'd be great. So, no, really, it is just, I'm serious, by the way, by that. I'm serious. But it is a lot of fun to celebrate it and to make much of it when we do these things that Jesus said, hey, do this as part of how you follow me. There's something that happens with an infusion of even more courage when we just follow Jesus just even one step at a time. And then for everybody else to celebrate it is a really, really cool opportunity. While you're here today and while we're all kind of gathered in this room, I want you to know that you're in possession of something that everybody else wants more of, and most people want some of yours. Okay, you're in possession right now. You possess something that everyone wants more of. Everybody wants more of it. And most people want more of yours. And not just does everybody want more of it and more of yours, every organization wants more of yours. Every one of us, you and I, we have this possession of something that everybody else and every other organization wants more of. Now, I know some of you are getting nervous because you think that sounds like a great lead-in to a message about money in a church, okay? And it's not. It's about Bitcoin, okay? But it's not about that either. Not Bitcoin either, okay? But yeah. But there is something you are in possession of. I'm in possession of it. Everybody is vying for it, wants more of yours, and they want more for themselves, and every organization wants more of yours. And it's this very limited but priceless commodity of time. You are in possession of time. Now, the interesting fact is all of us are in the possession of the same amount of time. All these things that the world wants to be equal, this is one thing that's equal. You have the same amount of time as the person next to you, as the person next to them, as the person 4 rows over, as the person online. Like, we all have this limited but priceless commodity of time, and everybody wants more of it, don't they? People are asking for more of yours. Maybe it's your kids asking for more of yours. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's the person that you're dating. Maybe it's a parent asking more of yours. School's asking for more of yours. The team that you're on, they constantly want a little bit more. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, they all want more, right? They're all looking for more of your time. None of them are ever going to post a warning at the end that says, you've watched enough shows today. Go spend time with your family. They're never going to say that, okay? Why? Because they want more of your time, right? Even the church sometimes feels like, man, they just want more of my time, right? Just like, I got this commodity, it's time, and even the church, like we want this thing, right? And what do I even do with Jesus, who Jesus even seems to want like some of my time? And when you put that in the context of family that we've been talking about over the last few weeks, there's this truth that all of us as individuals, but then all of us as families, regardless of what family season we're in, young kids at home, no kids at home, married, single again, siblings, whether we're siblings and your siblings for life, regardless of age, right? Like, we're under construction. There's this good thing that God's trying to do all of the time, but there's also these forces at work that are trying to tear down, to try and stop the rehab, to try and stop the life expansion project. And one of the things at stake that's being fought over is is our time. It's the pace at which we live as individuals and as family units. And today, in just a few minutes, I want to just invite us to look and say, okay, what do I need to understand first about time in order to navigate it maybe in a life-giving way, in a way that Jesus handed us the gift of time? Like, how would I have to look at it? So let me just give you a couple of things. First of all, we just got to understand that for every one of us, time is bigger than we think. Time is so much bigger than we often think. It's just grander. And not bigger in like, oh, wait, there's more of it somewhere that I didn't, like there's a secret stash somewhere, there's an armory of time somewhere that I can go make a withdrawal from. It's not so much like that. Let me show it to you in a scripture. If you've got a Bible, I want to invite you to just open to the book of Proverbs, which is near the middle of the Bible. It's in the Old Testament of your Bible. Proverbs is a collection of wise sayings from a guy named Solomon, and Solomon's looking at life against the backdrop of God and his life with God and against the backdrop of humanity and how he has seen all of these things intersect. And inside Proverbs, there's all sorts of things about time and pace and energy and how we use them and don't use them. But some of them are a little bit sobering. That if we would embrace them, they would actually not just be sobering, they'd be really freeing. And here's one of them. Proverbs chapter 27 is where we're going to be. Proverbs chapter 27, and we're just going to look at verse 1. It says this: don't brag about tomorrow. Don't brag about tomorrow, since you don't know what the day will even bring. Don't brag about tomorrow because you don't actually know what tomorrow holds. And it's not Solomon saying, hey, don't plan, don't have a strategy. I mean, he's got a lot of things in here about the wisdom of planning and the wisdom of counsel and making decisions and taking steps and forming strategy. But what he is saying is, hey, that even when you make a plan, don't put all your stock in it because you can't even really guarantee what's coming tomorrow. Time's just, it's bigger than you think. And no matter what you do, you can't force more into it. You can't be like, oh, you know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create the 25th hour in the day. Time's bigger than that. Hey, you know what I'm going to do just for me and my family? I'm going to create the 8th day of the week. You just can't do it, right? You can't. Time's bigger than that. It's outside of our ability to extend somehow or add to or form our own little stockpile. Time doesn't work that way. And what we also know is that no matter how hard we try, we can't really control what's coming next. All of us, on some level, probably have a plan for what Monday looks like, at least loosely. And yet none of us have ultimate control of what Monday will look like. Right? And we don't have to live very much life to understand that. Right? Just think about each generation. We'll just go back a couple generations and just think about how much in one day, in one moment, people's plans changed. Pearl Harbor. The day the first cars showed up and had to wait in line because there was gas rationing. 9/11. You might have had travel plans for 9/12. You didn't go anywhere. 2020 and all the things we don't want to talk about, skip that. It only takes one day. And your next day is suddenly not as much in your control as you thought it was. Because time is bigger than we often think. You could just pull that down a little bit further and think about it on a more personal level. It only takes one bad test result and report from a doctor for your tomorrow to be different. It only takes one bad performance review or one sideways energy day with a boss for the way you enter the next day to feel very different than the way you entered this day. It only takes one breakup, one betrayal, one secret found out for tomorrow to not feel anything like it did moments ago. We know we don't really fully control tomorrow, and yet sometimes don't we live like we do? Don't we live a little bit with like, I can pack one more thing in, I can do one more thing, and if we can get this one to fall right, then that'll hit this domino, that domino hit this domino, and it'll fall, the schedule will be perfect, and now I've got a plan. And we sometimes confuse the fact that we have a plan with something that we control. But time's it's just bigger. It's just bigger than us. And not only is time like bigger than us, it's often shorter than we think. Time is bigger than we think, and it's often much shorter, much more compressed than we think. It's more limited, and we feel the tension of like there's only 24 hours in a day, there's only 7 days in the week, right? But it also is a little shorter when it comes to the whole of our life than we often think. Let me show you a couple of verses. We'll jump around in the scriptures just a little bit. Psalm chapter 90, verse 12. This verse first started just anchoring itself into my soul when I was in college. And so for the last few decades, it's been this constant reorientation to me back to this reality, back to this truth. Well, the psalmist wrote, "Hey God, would you please teach us? Would you please teach us to understand and to get a comprehension of the brevity of life? Would you teach us to number our days? Would you teach us somehow, in all of your goodness, would you teach us to remember how short our life really is? Because when you do, when you teach us that, then we start to live with wisdom. When we understand just how short our life is, we begin to live with more skill. We begin to live with more success. We begin to live making better decisions. We begin to live winning more often than we're losing because of impatient or short-sighted decisions. Oh God, would you please teach us against the backdrop of all eternity how brief life really is? It's short. It's short. It's really quick. I mean, just let your mind play it out for a second. If you live to be 100, it's still a blank. It's still a blank. And some of us are like, I don't even want to live to be 100, right? If you live to be 110, it's still just a blank, right? And James, half-brother of Jesus, he actually talks about that some. In chapter 4, verse 14, this is what he says. He says, how do you know what your life is going to be like tomorrow? Which is this point back to time's bigger than we think, right? It just takes one thing to shift how we're navigating time altogether, right? Your life, it's just like the morning fog that settles in, and it might get you a 2-hour school delay, or it might cause your flight to be delayed, but then it's just gone. Your life is a little bit like that fog. It's here for a minute, and then just boom, then it's gone. It's here for a little while. It's just really short. And again, that's not a bad thing. That's a perspective thing. That doesn't have to be terrible. It could actually be a gift to help us understand, oh, wait, when I see that, then I can start to live with more wisdom. I can start to live with more skill and more success. I can start to make better decisions because I understand that the thing I'm doing right now, it's very short. Against the backdrop of eternity, it's really brief. It's just a fog. It's here today and it's gone tomorrow. Okay. It doesn't always feel that way, right? Wouldn't we admit that sometimes the days feel really long? If you have somebody in your home that you're trying to get to sleep through the night right now, I just want you to know it's Sunday. It's almost 11, and we're in the month of April. It's just all the days start to blend together, right? Every day is long. When you're trying, it's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks, nobody's sleeping through the night. And when we say nobody, we mean nobody, right? He's like, oh, this is long, this is forever. And somehow that stretch of weeks can feel like years. Right? And then once that kid is sleeping through the night, there's this other thing that seems to quickly happen. They get a voice, and with that voice comes some sass. And with that sass comes words like, no, mine, I'll do it. And then that feels like a whole nother set of eternity, right? And it's like, are you kidding me? Right? We have these moments that seem long. We have crisis. Some of us, like you're in a relationship with a family member. Maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a child, where there's been an earthquake of sorts in the relationship, and the ground between you has fractured and split, and there is some sort of a gap. And you are doing and have done everything you can possibly think of, but the communication doesn't come back. There doesn't seem like there's any bridge being built. In days with that heartache and that confusion and that question, boy, they can feel long. They can feel long. Somehow the days just feel, it's like, man, but I'm just a fog, right? I'm here and then I'm gone, but yet these days feel so long. It's been said, and I think this is really true, that oftentimes we look at life and the days feel long, but the years feel fast. Isn't that true? The days feel really long, but the years feel really fast. I remember when our girls were first born, and they were like learning how to sleep through the night, and we're kind of getting there. It's like, man, this feels like an eternity. And like whose kids are these? Like, how'd they get here? Like, you're still trying to adjust to even being a parent, right? And then I remember vividly what seemed like one day after that, sitting in a middle school parking lot in a late afternoon, waiting to pick up one of my girls from some after-school activity they were part of. And I remember looking at that middle school and thinking, how did we get here? When did I become the parent of middle schoolers? Weren't we just trying to sleep through the night? Just a blink. Those days felt so long, but those years feel so fast. And then they grow, and then they move out, and sometimes that's great, right? And then before you know it, you're parenting your parent. It's like, wait, how did that happen? Wasn't it just yesterday my parent was teaching me how to drive? And now I'm having to parent my parent in some ways. Those days can feel so long, but the years are so fast. And it's this reminder, we really are. We're just a fog. We're here today. Not the wind blows and we kind of clear out. There's another generation of fog coming. Life is really brief. And what we find ourselves confronted with is that, okay, there's a lot coming at us. More people want more of my time. School wants more of my time and more of my kids' time. My job wants more of my time. My friends, they want us to hang out more somehow. My neighbors, they want a little bit of interaction over here. My family and extended family, they always seem to be wanting time somehow. And well, Little League, that wants some time. And that dance recital, that's going to require time. And all the prep time leading up to that. And we've got to get to the doctor, and we've got to get to the dentist, and there's groceries that I have to get, and that needs some of my time. And there's at least 6 shows that I want to watch right now. That takes some time. And somewhere I need a hobby. And if I get a hobby, well, that takes some of my time. It just keeps coming, right? Everybody and everything wants more of this timeless and yet precious commodity that you have. And this time is bigger than you think. You can't add to it. You can't manufacture. You can't control it, right? And yet it's shorter. It's so brief. And how do you get it all in? And it leads to questions. Like when was the last time you said or thought or felt a phrase like, man, I wish we had more time? When's the last time you said or you thought or you felt a phrase like, how did we get so busy? And so what do we do with that? When those questions come up and we're confronted with the fact that time is bigger than we are and shorter than we often think, how could we use it, enjoy it? How could we leverage it better? Even though time is bigger than we often think and shorter than we often think, how could we use it? How could we use it better? How could we see it as use it as a little bit more of a gift and an opportunity? New Testament in your Bible, there's a passage in letter of Ephesians written by a guy named Paul who was really significant in starting churches in the first century, and he would write letters back to them or write letters to churches he hadn't even been to or started yet, just with all this encouragement and this teaching mixed in with belief and hope of who they could be. In Ephesians chapter 5, he writes a few lines about this dynamic of time that I think are just amazing. They're so helpful for us too. And this is what he says, Ephesians chapter 5, verse 14. He said, it is said, and he's quoting some people from the Old Testament of your Bible who have said this multiple times. He said, it is said, awake or wake up, wake up. And our word for the year as a church is awakening. Like we want to say yes to the awakening, the rousing of Jesus who is stirring us to see something again or more fully or more completely. He says, awake you sleeper, rise up from the dead. Maybe you can picture that today, like rise up from being weighted and weighted down underneath the pressure of not having enough time, the schedule being too full, not knowing what to say yes to and what to say no to. Like, rise up from the dead. Because when you wake up to who Christ is, when you wake up to the fact that time is bigger than you think and it's shorter than you think, then Christ could be your light. Jesus could actually light the way through the 24 hours of your day, the 7 days of your week, the 365 days. Jesus could actually light the way in the fog that is the brevity of your life and my life. Paul's like, hey, wake up, and this will be so good for you. And then he says, so now, like, I'm hoping you see it. And he says, so be careful, like be very careful, be wise, be diligent, be intentional about how you live. Don't live like fools. Don't live with people who have no concept of time. Don't live with people who always have to live under the pressure of time. Like, instead, live like people who are wise. And the people who are wise do what he says in verse 16. They make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. It's funny to me. Don't the days that we're in right now just feel evil? Don't they? It's funny that the same thing was true a couple thousand years ago. Right? It continues to be true. Because there is this dynamic of sin in the world. There is this dynamic of selfishness that leads to destruction. It leads to things breaking down and corroding. And so Paul's writing to a group of people who we might look back and think, oh man, they had all the time in the world. They had no social media, they had no tech, they had no cars to break down, they didn't have lawns to mow. It's just all rocky in the Middle East, right? I mean, they have all the time in the world, right? And yet Paul's got to write to them and say, make the most of every opportunity. Inside this letter, multiple generations are hearing it. It's read in a community of people, much like this maybe. And there's grandparents hearing it, there's aunt and uncles hearing it, there's siblings hearing it, there's kids hearing it, right? Like it's multiple generations. Hey, all of you listening, make the most of every opportunity. Because these days are really evil and confusing and distracting days. And in every day, people and groups want more of your time. They want more for themselves and they want more of what you have. So the question is, how do we do it? How do we make the most of our time? Because there is a collision that happens in every life. And the collision is the collision of unlimited opportunities and invitations. There is always something available for you to do. And those unlimited invitations and opportunities, somewhere along the way for all of us, they collide with the reality of limited time. And I know we all got FOMO on some level, right? You don't want to miss out. You don't want to see somebody else went here, did that, or mastered this, or right, I get it. But how do we make the most of it? Well, I'll show it to you this way. Some of you've maybe seen this before, but let me just show it to you this way. If you think about this jar as this is your time. This is your 24 hours a day. This is your 7 days a week. This is what you possess. And it's bigger than you think. You can't add to it. You can't grow this. You can't expand it somehow, right? This is what you have. And so you've got all of these needs in your life. You've got all of these responsibilities, and they've got to get into your life, right? I mean, you got to mow the grass. You do got to take care of the car. You do have to get kids to school. You do have to get your job done. You do have to do your homework. You do need to get to practice somehow. And sometimes you've got to work after practice, and sometimes you've got to bring work from work home, and then it doesn't feel like work. It feels like working at home, right? And you got all these responsibilities. You got to go get groceries. You got to figure it out. You got to figure out what we're going to eat today. You got to figure out the calendar. How are we going to get from here to there? Hey, what about Bob and Larry who want some of our time? Are we going to give them some of our time? There's all these responsibilities. You just have to keep living them. You got to pay the bills. You got to eventually clean some portion of the house, or try and clean some portion of the house, or get somebody to clean some portion of the house. There's always something that's got to get done. You got to get the kids ready for the next school year. You got to buy back to school supplies, which I should not be talking about at this point of the year, but somewhere that day is coming, right? You got to get a new backpack. There's new shoes to be bought. There's kids that are growing. There's clothes that are wearing out. There's things in the house that need to be changed and updated and fixed. There's furnace filters to change, right? You got to keep doing it, right? There's all these little responsibilities. They got to get in there. You can't just ignore them. But they're not the things that we love. You know, nobody's like, woo, today I get to take out the trash. But you do have to take out the trash, right? But then you have these other things that are maybe a little more important. They start to get enjoyable, right? And you're like, oh man, we want to get together with some friends. That's great, man. We love those people. They're so life-giving. We want to be together with them for a little bit. Yep. And maybe you actually are sick and you actually like doing yard work, and so that one's in here for you. You're like, yeah, I like it. Can I spend 6 hours in the yard today? Can I do that? You know. But you got some other things over here. You got, hey, we're going to grow together. We're going to have some family experiences. There's people wanting our time, and we're going to do these things as a family. Or, hey, you know what? We got kids involved in this, and everybody's coming. Grandma, grandpa, the whole pack. They're coming to Little League games and dance recitals, and that's great. So this is really important to us, and maybe got a little hobby time in there, and that's great. These things matter. They're definitely more important than what we put in first. These are the things that we actually start to enjoy. And then we got some bigger rocks, and these are the most important things. You're like, well, of course, we got to get these things in, right? I want to do this. Man, I'm in church, so let's do this one, right? I want to spend some time with Jesus. That's important to me, right? I want to make sure I've devoted some time to him, right? I'm really conscious of my health, and so, yeah, I think I want to spend some time on my health and all those kind of things, right? And I want to figure out a plan for the future. I got to have some time to think about retirement or whatever it is, and we definitely want some family time. How is it we're going to make sure we get some of that in? It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. And now it's the most important things that we tried to get them in, and somewhere, because everybody wants more of your time, and every organization wants more of your time, what we find ourselves in is, man, I have these most important things. There's no room for them. They're not actually fitting safely in here. They're overflowing. And this is when we start using phrases like, I wish I had more time. And how do we get this busy? And I wish I knew what to say no to. I wish somehow, how do we get here all the time? Right? And when we look at it this way, it doesn't feel like we're taking the counsel of Scripture and saying, oh, wait, let me make the most of every opportunity. So let's just try it, let's look at it a different way. Let's say, okay, what if we just said big rocks first? Okay, yep, I'm gonna start with my relationship with Jesus. It's important to me. I'm just gonna give him some devoted time. He's with me all day long, but I want some level of concentrated time with him or whatever that is. And we're gonna just say, well, I want some family stuff, like we're gonna fight for family dinner or family communication or family FaceTime or whatever it is. We're gonna try and make sure that happens and whatever that looks like. And each varying season of life along the way. And yeah, you know what I do? I want to do my best at work and at school. That's a part of my life, and I want to steward that well. And so yeah, I'm gonna give that some time. And you know what? We're gonna determine. We're gonna think about what is it we want to do with our money, whatever amount of money it is we have, and let's be intentional about that together as a family. And you know what? I mean, I see Jesus do this thing called rest. And that's really foreign to me, but I think it's important. And so I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to start with that. And this is my life, and this is the time I have available. So I'll start with those things. Now I don't want to leave all these behind. I still want to hang out with those people. And I still got these hobbies that I love, and I really want to enjoy them. And I want to get on the boat, or I want to get on the slopes, or I want to walk the dog, or whatever it is. I want to do those things. And yep, we're going to watch a show together, and we are still going to get to that Little League game, and we might even, maybe we'll go to somebody else's Little League game. These things are important to me. But I still got all these just life responsibility things. And I can't just leave them, or suddenly all these are at risk too. So it's I guess I still have to do it. I do have to pay the bills, and I do still need to do my homework, and I do still need to actually go to work and have a job, and I do probably still need to take care of my yard, and I probably should put gas in the car and occasionally change the oil, and I probably should still check in with the people in my life that maybe things aren't perfect with, and I really do want to make sure I get those things done, and yet somehow I still want to have time. And it's interesting that if I put the most important things in first, not only do I get to the end of it and I still have time, I actually have this beautiful thing called margin. I actually have extra. I actually have extra at the end of a day. I actually have extra at the end of a week. I actually have extra at the end of a year. Now let me just ask you a question. Which way just feels more enjoyable? Not more normal. Not more oddly celebrated. Isn't it funny how we kind of have a culture that celebrates this? Run yourself into the ground and we will cheer for you. And then when you collapse, we'll also slightly shame you. Or look at the things that matter most to me, anchoring my life, and still providing me room and strength for all the other things that I enjoy and have fun with, and leaving room for the things that I don't enjoy but are just a part of life in this world. Paul's hey, make the most of every opportunity. What if what determined what hit your calendar was you chose the big rocks first? What if when the family calendar was being set and things were coming your way, the first question wasn't, where can we put it on the calendar, or do we have time for it? The first question was, hey, is this a really big rock to us? Or is this just kind of a fun piece for us? We want to do it, it's great. Or is it really a gross, repulsive part of life that we really have to get done? It's just a daily responsibility. Instead of saying, hey, let's just make sure we get everything in, we'll just get these things out of the way and do this, what if when the next invitation came, the first question wasn't, can we do it? The first question was, hey, in light of the things that we think are most important to us as a family, in light of the things that we think are most important to us as a dating couple, in light of the things that we think are most important to me as a person who is a part of a family, as a sibling or a son or a daughter, how's that fit? How's it fit? How's it fit? Can I just say something that sounds too good to be true? You and I, when we follow Jesus, there is always a better and different way to do things. Always. And there is a way that is different and better than living with the constant sense of, I wish I had more time. How did we get so busy? How am I going to get it all done? Everybody else inviting you to do something, every cultural trend that has conveyed to you what you need to do, or what your kids or your grandkids need to do, or what your company needs to do, they really don't care if this is your life. Because it's probably theirs. But if we could stop and say, hey, what are my big rocks? What are the things we value most? And let's put those in first. So, there's a couple ways we can respond to this. And one of them is in the moment, it's right now. But there are some others that are this week. There are conversations for you to have as a family, or there are questions for you to consider as you think about a future family and you dream about what that could be. And it really starts with, hey, what are our big rocks? What are the things that matter most to us? And are we living putting them in first, or are we living with them always being the last thing? You want to know the way, you want to know the way to know the least important thing in your life and the least important things in the lives of people around you? Don't listen to what people say. Don't listen to what you say. Just look at what gets cut from your calendar fastest. What gets the most immediate no? It's the least important. Doesn't matter what you say. Just let's forget words for it. Let's just value, what's getting in there. And so what if we said, these are the important things, and we're going to agree as a family unit or a couple or a dating couple or whatever, we're going to agree to form these and decide what they are, and then we'll make decisions based on those first. We'll make decisions based on those first. These are the most important things. And again, 20 minutes at breakfast together, or 15 minutes in a car ride on the way to school, or probably on the way home from school, because nobody talks on the way to school. You have to figure, where are the moments this week you can have those conversations? Where's the FaceTime call with family who we don't live in the same geographic area anymore, but we're still family, and we still think about, hey, when we're together, these are the things that matter. What's it look like to have 3 different 15 or 20-minute conversations in moments of the week? Husbands, wives, grandparents, parents, sibs. Then the question we can answer today is, if I'm honest, do I really want to make the most of my time? If I'm honest, do I really want to make the most of my time? And you think, well, of course, John, of course. Okay, but listen, there is an alternative. And the alternative is to simply stay with the pace of the world, try and keep up with that traffic, and hope that somewhere that actually leads to fulfillment. It is an option. It is. It's a very real option that most of us are living in. Today, we just say, let me define my intent. My intent is to figure out what are the big rocks in my life and lead with those. Those hit the calendar first. Those hit the family calendar first. And then the decisions we make in the weeks and months and years ahead reinforce that. Now, lest you be in despair 14 days from now, let me just give us all permission on this too. Unfortunately, this isn't a one-time exercise. The default is back to crazy. The default is back to, their kids are all doing it. I guess mine or everybody else at work does that. Right? That's the default. So periodically we just come back to it and say, hey, let's review the big rocks. Hey, as a family, let's review the big rocks. Are we living from those first? Just keep coming back to it. It's not because we failed. It's not because we missed it. It's not because we need to feel guilty or shameful. It's because every now and then you got to reevaluate. So what's the decision you make today? Would you say today, as far as it depends on me, as far as it depends on our family, we're going to be a big rocks first. And I know that's going to push us against the grain some, but we're going to be big rocks first. So that maybe we don't have to constantly live with the lingering statement, thought, or feeling of, I wish we weren't so busy.